Welcome to the Productivity Podcast. Delighted today to be joined by Karen Dyke, who's a CEO at Retail Manager Solutions. Morning, Karen. How are you?
Good morning, Simon. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. This is part of our workforce management series and really looking forward to speaking to you today. So for those that maybe aren't familiar with you or Retail Manager Solutions, it'd be good if you can first give us a bit of a career biog and then tell us a little bit about the business.
Of course, Simon, and thank you very much for inviting me today. My name is Karen Dyke from Retail Manager Solutions. So I've been running Retail Manager Solutions for since its inception. Previous to that, my career began very much in the retail sector. So I worked for a number of retail outlets. Moving on from that, I actually moved into the technology world. I joined IBM and was very much involved in the development of hardware platforms. But my heart was still very much based on business. Moving away from IBM, I had the opportunity to build a retail-specific vertical within a systems integrator, and latterly managed to successfully do a management buyout to form what Retail Manager Solutions is today. Retail Manager Solutions offers a portfolio of retail, hospitality, and healthcare-specific application solutions. More so retail, that's very much where we began. And our mission in life is really to automate and ease communication and activity between head office functions, field, and the store operation. Our dream and our mission, and we're nearly there, is to offer a platform that does everything within a store environment outside of taking cash from customers. So a portfolio of over 120 different modules, which can be custom configured and built for each individual customer implementation.
I love the Metro roadmap that you use. So for those that haven't seen it, if you go on the RMS website, and we'll give the details out at the end, you visualize it in a tube map almost, if probably that's the correct way of doing it without giving it a disservice. So you can see the different coloured lines and you can see the journeys of all the different products that connect together. Is that fair?
It's a very good description. And for many, many months, as you can imagine, marketing parts of the business are always very, very creative. And it was really to try and find something that depicted that you could go on a journey with us as a business. So you could start on a particular line and then pick up any station that worked for you. So very much it is for each customer, they can take what's right for them, what's right for their business, and what's right and what's going to make a difference to their business operationally.
Yeah, I love it. So yeah, check it out, and we'll put the link on and a link to it when the podcast goes out. So we're going to talk a lot today around people, because regardless of retail, hospitality, you boil it down and it's all about people. So how well you can engage and connect with the people that work with you, for me, has a massive correlation and direct impact on how they connect with their customers, and therefore that drives sales and revenue. So it sounds simple. Some people do it really well. Some people have a big challenge with it. I think one of the biggest challenges, Karen, is based on this year. So 2020, it's been something that nobody could have ever predicted, I don't think. It's been really difficult for employers to connect with their employees because potentially they're at home, they're in and out based on furlough, doing different things than maybe they normally would, or being asked to do different things. So how have you and the team kind of combated that and helped them through the solutions you provide?
It's an exceptionally good point, Simon. The challenges that the COVID-19 have introduced this year, as you said, I don't think anybody could have foreseen. And there's been two major areas where our clients have worked with us very, very closely to take advantage of what they already have within our product suite. The first thing is, how do I engage with my employees, and how do I do that legally and effectively when some of those employees are furloughed? You need to be able to reach out with them. You still need to communicate with them. But clearly you have to be incredibly careful that as part of that communication, you're not invoking any working operation. So communication, advising people of where you are as a business, what your position is on COVID-19, what's going to happen when they do return to work is incredibly important. And we have seen customers that have had no actual operational retail outlets working, using the platform just to communicate, just to advise, just to embrace those employees. On the other side, we've had a number of clients that, because of the virtue of the vertical within retail that they're in, their workload has grown exponentially. And therefore, changes in working hours, the priority for customers in those working hours, increases in re-merchandising, restocking, pressure, and people are asked to do different things that maybe aren't part of their normal working pattern. So it's been incredibly important that whatever we do from a scheduling, from a planning perspective, it can absorb dynamic change. And our platform is absolutely built on being able to have something dynamic, unique to each individual outlet by day, by week of year. So we've seen a lot of plans, a lot of historical ways of driving populations of schedules, populations of rotas in a completely different way. And having a platform that can be that flexible is incredibly important. But it isn't only about that scheduling. It's about how do I communicate to my employees those changes, the additional things that I'm going to ask them to do, and also having the capability to pre-warn those that may be returning to work how that pattern is going to look to them.
Yeah, so it's a minefield, isn't it? And some organisations were in a good place with this kind of stuff pre-lockdown. Let's be fair, and some, well, it will have absolutely blindsided them because, like I said, and we both said, no one would have predicted how 2020 is going to pan out. So that's all well and good. You can have great comms platform, you can be reactive, but that relies that relies to a degree on the provider of those solutions. So it must have been really difficult for your team because clearly all of a sudden they'll be getting requests to be changing the plan, to do things differently, to maybe do some more configuration. So how did your team cope in those initial phases of lockdown to react and support the customers to deliver what they were looking to do?
They've had to be incredibly attentive. As you said, each individual retailer is very, very different. From changing the look and feel of the application to give their, prominent space for key communications, through to changing how you drive a schedule. As you know, Simon, work measurement is very important to driving schedules. But in these changing times, sometimes that work measurement is not available because no organisation has been able to measure it. We've seen different and changing footfall, limitations on the number of people that can actually physically access a location, a massive increase in click and collect transactions. So the whole profile has had to change. And so we can, the beauty of the platform, and any platform must be based on saying, I need to make a change today. I need to drive my schedules in a different way. And some of those may be just on, I can only afford minimum manning. Some of those may say, actually, I now want to introduce non-core activity, which would maybe click and collect transactions. So it's having that ability and having the team that are in place, and with their real, live retail business experience, being able to change those configurations and do what ifs. The beauty of any platform is the ability, yes, you may get it wrong, but the ability to make those changes to get it right very, very quickly. And so having those platforms that can visibly show you compliance, they can visibly show you how you're meeting this new demand is incredibly important, and it needs to be real time.
And clearly having the provider that's there to help you through that journey, because if we try and predict 2021, I'm not sure what we base it on, 2019 or a bit of 2020. So that whole scheduling piece of profiles and manning templates, even down to minimum manning, at the moment, I think for most people for next year is up in the air, because what do you base it on? Something that's greater than 12 months, something that hopefully is a one-off year in the world. It's a challenge, isn't it, to think through of how do I shape my staffing for the years going forward now.
And you're absolutely right. It's not impossible. I think we have to learn each week of 2021 and learn from previous schedules and the ability to take those, analyse them, and reuse them where we can. There isn't one size that fits all by any stretch of the imagination, and we just don't know what the world is going to look like in 2021. Clearly, we're hearing really positive news about vaccines to control the spread of the disease and hopefully get us to a position of herd immunity. But we don't know how long that's going to take. So my view is that Q1 next year is going to need to follow the pattern pretty much of 2020 is we're going to have to change. We're going to have to be dynamic. We're going to have to react. Planning is going to be very difficult. I think the only metric and the only plan that any retailer may have at this moment in time is to say, I've got an idea of a labour budget. I've got an idea of how much I can afford until I see a sales profile change, until I see an increase in sales. And therefore, I need something that's going to help me control that budget whilst trying to react to customer demand. So it is about that flexibility and about managing it on a week-by-week basis and having a platform that can change those drivers. So one day it could be minimum manning, the next day it could be minimum manning and a sales profile, the following day it could be number of transactions, it could be number of web click and collects, it could be footfall information. You just need that flexibility. As we know, manning is key in any organisation that's involved in retail or hospitality. And it's that balance to say, I have enough people in my store to operate it versus I don't have enough people in my store to actually address the demand. And so it is finding that balance.
And I think it's a bit like, I think it was Burger King that was have it your way was their slogan for a time, because I might need a timesheet that I can do working from home because lots of field roles will spend, I assume, more time at home and in the stores, less time in head office moving forward. I might be wanting to clock in and out in a store. So I think a thing that's probably worth exploring a little bit more. So I know you use clocks to drive employee engagement and interact with the system. So if we just maybe talk about that for a second and then thoughts on how that might move on if people aren't necessarily using physical clocks.
Yeah, the clocking solution that we have implemented is what we refer to as a soft clock. So it is a software-based clock with no need for any hardware. And it's something that can sit on every employee's personal device if they choose to use those, or it is a web-based application. So it's very, very simple to get access to. For many years, we debated about the use of clocks, especially in retail and hospitality. What do they really deliver? Do they give you the visibility of bad behavior and bad loyalty, or do they actually just expose how great your staff are and how much extra time they give you? However, legality has changed, working time directive has changed, minimum wages have changed, and we know that HMRC are so hot now on ensuring that you're paying down to the individual minute for what people work, because extra minutes can affect your minimum wage payment. It can look like Big Brother, and a lot of employees can feel that they're being asked to do something that they're not comfortable with. And what we've actually seen by actually integrating it with a communications package, something that engages with the employee, that we are seeing that we're getting 100% clocking, which is unheard of, that, employees are quite happy to do it. They see the value in it. And I think the other point that you made earlier is that we're seeing that people don't work all the time at certain locations. There is an element of working from home or having to go to lots of different locations. So actually tracking where people are isn't again Big Brother, it's health and safety. There are people that could be operating and working in a location on their own. and you need to know that they're there. You need to be able to check in on them. So there are many hidden benefits of clocking and awareness, geographic awareness and timing awareness of where people are. So strangely, I think our fear of colleagues and employees having concern about things such as clocks it's turned on its head, and people are actually seeing the benefits of it.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned minimum wage there. I know it was 2017, I think, one of the big department stores, there's not that many left, so people have to figure out which one it is. I think it was one Christmas temp that worked out their average hourly earnings was under the minimum wage limit, sorry. And it led to a fine, and I think they had to pay back kind of, 250 grand's worth of pay to other people after they'd worked out the average. So, I'm not sure there's going to be many businesses that are sat on that kind of money to pay back. So the importance of getting it right, one from a fairness point of view, but as you say, two from a legality point of view, is absolutely critical. And as those rates change, clearly you've got to keep on top of it. So yeah, if you want to go and find out who it is, I'm sure you can Google it. It was in 2017, but that becomes big news, and in the current environment, not great news either.
I totally agree.
Yeah, it's a challenge to keep on top of. So a couple of things I wanted to touch on. So I think you talked about work measurement before. Absolutely agree. It's a time, and we've been through a time where people have just got to get on with keeping the shops open. I think as we move forward into whatever it looks like, it's really important people get a grip of those new cleaning activities they've put in, because we've seen everybody we work with has got a COVID cleaning policy, and there's a big cost to that. And also this shift, and you mentioned a couple of times, towards click and collect and digital. So I think that will help people understand the cost moving into 2021 and how that flexes based on what the government guidelines are and so forth. But if we cast our minds kind of into next year and maybe the year after, where are you looking as a team around the product, where you've got innovation coming, what kind of cool things that you can share, and don't give away any secrets, is on your mind and roadmap?
Our strategy is absolutely based very much around the whole engagement process with employee. So giving more and more capability to the end user, be it, I can approve my timesheet. That can go through a further level of timesheeting. I want to see what I did, number of hours, number of minutes last week. I want to be able to book my holiday. I also want to see the latest video from my board. I want to be able to engage. I want to use similar social tool sets that I can do in my private life. I want to be able to like things. I want to be able to comment on things. I want to interact and engage. So certainly our deliverables in Q1 are very much about employee focus and engagement, and trying to draw in some of those activities that get lost in external social networking tools. I think every customer that I speak to, they have this challenge. I won't call it an issue anymore, but it is a challenge that much of their communication, much of their discussions about who's going to be working what shift, who's going to be available, is done through social tools, things like WhatsApp. And they have an absolute perfect place in this world, and they will never disappear, no matter what. Any vendor like ourselves will never take those things away. What we have to focus on is bringing some of that traffic back into the corporation itself, and using those styles of communication to drive productivity, drive how we are going to man, drive loyalty with those employees. So Q1 is very much focused on those deliverables for us, just reaching out to the employee as much as we possibly can. Because even, while we know that we're having to furlough staff, we've still trained those staff. And the last thing that we want to do is lose them. And, the inevitability is that there will be redundancies, but we must protect the skill set and the business knowledge that we've got. So holding on to those that we can, we need to find an effective mechanism. And that's about giving them the right rotas. That's about giving them the right information. And it's giving them something that they actually want to engage with. Just putting up policies and procedures is not particularly engaging. But, the use of video communication, use of things like Teams and Zoom for video conferencing, taking that down to the employee's personal device is just so important.
No, I like that. So yeah, more self-service comms, that whole social piece leading into this employee kind of sphere of technology sounds really interesting. And I'll come back to WhatsApp then. We see it a lot. So like you, we'll work with clients, retail, hospitality, and they'll say, yes, we've got this tool, we use this. We'll go in and do some study work in stores, and actually we'll see 5, 6, 7 different WhatsApp groups for various parts of the store team or field team, or with the same or contradicting messages, ironically. And it always strikes me a bit like you can't probably stamp it out because it's free and everybody pretty much has it on their phone, and people seem okay with having that mix of personal and work, most people. I think the big watch out still for me is the whole unregulated part of it. So who's managing, who has access to those groups, who's checking that, John Smith left and actually he's still seeing pictures of the promotion, but he's gone to work for a competitor, who's keeping it appropriate, because if it becomes inappropriate, clearly it can be brought back to the workplace. So whilst it's free and easy to access and you don't need a training manual, I think as a business, there's some real big watch outs of appropriate content. And actually, are you giving away your business secrets to the competitor who's managing it? And everybody will tell you they're busy, but managing those WhatsApp groups is another bit of work that people are almost self-generating. Does that resonate?
It absolutely resonates. And, the first lockdown, we saw an explosion of WhatsApp groups being created. I'm going to create a WhatsApp group for my furlough staff and for my non-furlough staff, and never the twain shall meet. Yet, a lot of our clients have the capability to be able to communicate in a different way based on their status. But you're absolutely right. I see a number of retailers and hospitality organisations that have spent a lot of money on workforce management tool sets, with features such as shift bidding, shift opportunity, and those tools are not being used. They revert, it's the lowest common denominator, the most simplest way to do these things. And that's why WhatsApp gains footfall. And when I look at our products, I've got to have that simplicity of UI. It's the simplest place for, our customers to go to find out what's going on. And it has to look like it. It has to be familiar. And so a lot of the new UIs that are being delivered in Q1 look horribly like very, very common social media tools. And I'm not going to highlight any in particular, but they look that way because that's what people are used to. My mum uses Facebook and she's in her 80s. So it's not an age thing now. Everybody is using these tools, and they're using these tools, strangely enough, over and above things like email. So people's behavior has completely changed, and things like COVID have just accelerated that change. And I think I've heard many people talk, many retailers publicly say, from a technology stance, they've moved more in the past 6-9 months than they had done for the past 10 years because they had to change. And I think any software vendor is in that same situation. You must change, you must adapt. And it is about that individual engagement, providing people with tools that look familiar.
Yeah, no, I agree. Why reinvent the wheel if people are used to it? Clearly, you're going to drive a smoother transition for adoption. I think the other thing that's really interesting, and you touched on it again before, was I think we're going to end up with, unfortunately, most organisations for the next 12 to 18 months having a smaller workforce because times are hard, sales aren't as great, our habits have changed in terms of the way we shop. And I'm talking generally retail hospitality here, which comes back to your wider point of it then becomes even more essential that you're providing that smaller workforce with the right tools, with the right communication pathways and platforms and the social elements that they crave. Because if I take my time back to managing stores, the less people you had, actually the less you saw them just because of shift patterns. So as a leader in a store, I would have, and I'm talking kind of 20 years ago now, show my age, I would have relished the opportunity to be able to speak to everybody virtually or via some sort of automated comms to know they've read it and understood it and asked me questions or whatever. Because we only actually ever got most people together in out of hours meetings just because it didn't work otherwise, with some people working weekends, some mornings, some afternoons, some evenings, days off. So I really see the value of it, but I actually think in terms of the priority list, it's going to be number one or number two as we move into the next 12 to 18 months, just because there's going to be, unfortunately, less people in work.
Very much so. And, we've seen in the past how people have had to really, it's the age-old expression, sweat the asset. We know from a technology perspective, all organizations have had to genuinely invest in technology over the past 9 months to cope with demand differences. The number of websites that I've been on to order things because that's the only way that I could shop, and I'm in a queue on a website. I mean, it's very nice. It's telling me that I'm in a queue, but that's just crazy. So we've seen huge investment, and we're not seeing those queues on websites this time round. But it's exactly the same for the in-store experience. It's making sure that the people that we have in there are in the right place at the right time as much as we can plan, but they are informed, they are educated, and give them some element of autonomy, but with knowledge. So it is a very, very, very different world.
Absolutely. It's been a fascinating chat, Karen. I think we've covered some great ground, and who knows what the next 12 to 18 months holds. Hopefully it's far more positive than maybe the last 9. If people want to reach out to you and have a chat about some of the stuff we've talked about, or find out more what's on the Metro roadmap, where's the best place for them to find you?
The best place to find me, again, number of ways. I'm available, obviously, on LinkedIn, so please connect through LinkedIn. Obviously, through the Retail Manager Solutions website, or contact me directly through email. My email address is karen.dyke@retail-manager.com.
Brilliant. And last question for me then, one that everybody gets on the podcast. What's the best bit of business advice you've ever been given?
The best bit of business advice, I think, keep it simple.
Simple as that then.
Yeah.
That's good. No, I fully agree. Complexity is good at times, but simplicity seems to drive progress, and complexity seems to drive confusion, let's say. Brilliant. I really enjoyed this one, Karen. It's been great to catch up.
It's been lovely to speak to you, Simon. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me.
You're more than welcome. Speak soon.
See you soon.